Again, I'd like to thank the Gatlinburg Convention Center and Proof of the Pudding for hosting us here today. And, at this point on my little cheat sheet here, it says I'm supposed to, announce everybody, all of our dignitaries and VIPs that are here. But as I look out over the audience, I think we're all VIPs here. If I look out, we've pretty much got the who's who of not only Sevier County, but the state of Tennessee is here with us today. But I do want to take a few minutes to recognize a few folks that have joined us today and taken time out of their busy schedule. First of all, Daryl Brady, Senior Field Representative from U.S. Congressman Phil Rowe's office. So thank you, Daryl. Also from the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, the East Tennessee Division Manager, Dave Jones. Thank you, Dave. And our city officials here in Gatlinburg. Let's start out with our mayor, Mike Warner. Thanks, Mike, for being here. We also have Vice Mayor Mark McCown with us. And Commissioner Ryan Desir is here with us as well. And thank you to our city manager, Cindy Cameron Ogle, for being here with us. And then also, this is a room that's well protected today. We have our Chief of Police, Randy Brackens, is here with us today. And then, no jokes about this one too soon. Our Fire Chief, Greg Miller's here with us. So, Greg, thank you. And also our Convention and Visitors Bureau and Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. We have our chairperson this year, Logan Kuykendall, is with us. Logan. And we also have Cornelia Dobbins. There's Cornelia. David Faulkner, you heard from him earlier, so David, thank you. Sid Maples, Sidney James. Jackie Leatherwood, where are you at, Jackie? There you are. And the person keeping Aeromont straight over there, Bill May. Thanks for joining us, Bill. Again, Cindy Cameron Ogle, Mark McCown, and Mike Werner, also on our board. So thank you all for joining us. And then also I'd like to ask the Gatlinburg Hospitality Association Board of Directors and Officers if you all will stand as a group, because we have to give recognition for them. This is something that they helped start and helped put together, and this event would not have happened without them. So thank you all. And then we also have our chamber ambassadors who are stakeholders in our community as well within their business. And I know we have some ambassadors that have joined us today. So I appreciate them. If you all will stand in unison as well. I know I see a whole table of you back there for sure. So they do great work for not only the Chamber of Commerce and the CVB, but they do great work throughout our great community here. So thank you. Also, we have some other local and county, hopefully a surprise for everyone, and we're going to get to learn a little bit more about our state. We have gubernatorial candidate Carl Dean with the Democratic Party that's joined us today. So, Mr. Dean, if you will, come on up and let's hear from you.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege to be here with you all. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself, why I'm running for governor, and what I see as sort of the key issues for the state moving forward. My background is I'm a lawyer. When I got out of college in 1978, I was absolutely convinced that the country needed at least one more lawyer. And so I was strongly encouraged to go to Vanderbilt. And I had grown up in a small town in Massachusetts and gone to college in New York, and so I came to Nashville in 1978. And the big thing that happened to me in law school was not so much corporate law or criminal law, it was that I met a woman. I met Ann Davis, who was in my law school class. She's a lot smarter than me. She's a Nashville native. We fall in love. We have discussions going on for a couple of years about where we're going to live when we get married. I'm talking about a small factory city, and she's talking about growing dynamic Nashville. And I live in Nashville. And it's the best thing that could ever happen to me. We've raised 3 kids here in Tennessee. I have 2 daughters who just graduated from college and a son who is a lawyer in Nashville. and he has one, and his wife have one daughter, about a year and a half, and they're expecting twins in November. So November is going to be an important month for us, no matter what. And so when I got out of law school, I basically became a public defender, which was something that I thought was really meaningful work. I learned a lot about poverty. I learned a lot about alcoholism, drug addiction. I learned a lot about mental illness. But the big lesson I took from that was the importance of education, because my clients were almost uniformly high school dropouts. My juvenile clients were leaving school at 12 and 13. I eventually got elected public defender in 1990, 94, and 98. In 99, I became the city's attorney, and then in 07, I was elected mayor. And I had really two very different terms as a mayor in Nashville. My first term, I get elected in September of 07, and as you know, and by the time you get to the spring of 08, the country has gone into the deepest recession it's known since the Great Depression. And so everything just sort of slowed down and stopped. We had to make a lot of really tough budget decisions. We had to balance the budget, make cuts. But I had priorities that I remained true to, which were public education, public safety, and economic development. And then on top of the recession in 2010, we had a major flood, probably the worst natural disaster we had in Nashville in 75 years. And we worked our way through that. By the end of my first term, we invested in the city. We invested in a new convention center, a huge project, and we were very active in economic development. And by the end of my first term in 2011, the city started booming. And so my second term was really the boom, which continues to this day, where the city just took off. And we had lots of growth. We were able to do a lot of things with education and public safety that I wanted to do from the beginning. And then I left office in 2015. And I decided to run for governor because I think the people of Tennessee want a governor who's going to be pragmatic, have common sense, who's going to be focused on the issues that really matter to voters. I don't think the people want an extremist. They don't want somebody who's going to look at everything through political, partisan lenses. They want somebody who's going to work on solutions. When I was elected mayor, I was elected in a nonpartisan election where I had to get Democrats, independents, and Republicans to vote for me. And one of my favorite political quotes of all time is from Fiorello LaGuardia, who's now better known as an airport than a person, but he was the famous mayor of New York during the Depression and World War II. And he once said, there's no Democrat or Republican way of picking up the garbage. People just want the garbage picked up. And I think what people want is their government to work for them. So for me, the key issues for our state moving forward are, number one, public education. It's something I believed when I was mayor. I believe it now. It is the thing that will move our state forward. I think it makes us a safer state. If we have good education, it'll make us a healthier state, which we need to be. And it will make us a more affluent state, and it'll put our kids in a position to succeed in life, which is the most important thing. If we're going to succeed in terms of economic development, I think it's going to be more about creating a great workforce here than it's going to be about incentives. Tennessee is going to be successful. The only thing that we can be held back on is we don't have the workforce here to do the jobs. We need to produce more college graduates, but we also have to realize not everyone's going to college. And if that's okay, we got to have a vocational and technical program so kids can get a good job and have a good career and make more than the minimum wage. Raise a family, that's what you want. We need to pay our teachers more. I can tell you that is an issue from one end of the state to the other. It plays itself out in the big cities where you're losing teachers to the private sector. Small towns, you're losing teachers to bigger districts that are paying $10,000 more, and we're losing teachers to Georgia and other states because we just don't pay it. We don't pay as enough. I'm a big believer in a strong economy. I mean, obviously, it's one of the things I worked on in Nashville. I think during my time, there was over 70,000 increase in jobs. We have to have a strong economy everywhere. We got to concentrate on the areas that need help. The cities, Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville are booming, but there are places that need help, and that's where we need to focus our attention. Things like rural broadband, things about identifying the strengths of local governments and helping them play to those strengths, we got to do. And then healthcare. I think we need to expand Medicaid. We have lost over $4 billion. Our money that is not being used here to help people get insurance and have access to health care. We've had 11 hospitals close in rural and small town Tennessee. And if you want to know what the challenge is in rural Tennessee, it is that they lost jobs in the 80s and 90s, like the apparel industry that haven't come back. They have schools that aren't able to get enough money from their tax base to do everything they need to do. And they have their hospitals closing. And that's a challenge, and we need to address those things. I'm incredibly optimistic about the state. I think, I think Tennessee's best days are still to come. We just have to focus on the things that we need to do, the basics. I think that's what people want us to do: education, economic opportunity, health care, and we'll be fine. But I ask for your support, your consideration in this election, and if we have time, I'm happy to answer questions, but if not, I'll be happy to do it afterwards.
All right, I have a microphone. Any questions for Mr. Dean?
Easy one.
He gets all of your votes? Is that it?
There's one back
We
there.
do have a question. There we go. Olin, get us started here.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Current news is telling us that at the federal level, environmental protections are being rolled back. And given the economic value of our natural resources in the state of Tennessee, I'd like to hear your comments on how our air and water quality can be protected at the state level.
That's a great question. First, let me say this. I mean, I just talked about how I am a pro-business guy. I mean, I kind of think that, a job in the private sector is better than any government program. But one of the things I also believe in is clean air and clean water, which I think is a nonpartisan issue. And I believe in protecting the beauty of the state. I mean, clearly, this economy here is so dependent upon that. But when you look at our state and what makes it attractive and why people invest here, why people move here, and why people want to stay here, it's because it's a beautiful place, from Mountain City to Memphis. I mean, you have got all sorts of terrain and all sorts of things to see and do here. People come here because they want to hike, they want to bike, they want to hunt, they want to fish, all those activities. And I don't think the federal government at this point, obviously the EPA is not going to come to our protection. I do think that we've got to be thoughtful. I mean, you don't want to, you got to be thoughtful about this, but you want to take steps to make sure that we are protecting the beauty of the state and protecting our clean air and clean water. You can do that in a reasonable way. You can do that in a way that is consistent with growth and development and is consistent with business. But that's an important part of what we do in our state is our natural beauty, and we need to always keep that in mind. It's vital.
Great. Any other questions? No?
All right. Thank you
We
very much.
so much appreciate you being here.
No, my
And I
pleasure.
think you're going to stay and listen to the panelists as well,
I am.
right? Great.
Learn something.
Thanks. And speaking of our panelists, let's go ahead and get them introduced and get up here. So we'll start out with our state senator, Art Swan. Come on up. And then our state representatives, Dale Carr and Andrew Farmer as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
I think we'll start out today. We'll just go down the line and hear what's on your mind, and then we'll open it up for questions and see what the audience has for you. First of all, Art, I guess congratulations to you. So, fresh off an election win. So, what do you see going on in Nashville and Sevier County here?
Things out there, isn't it?
Yeah, you can pull it closer.
It will come closer.
Yeah, we'll make it.
Very good. See the leg coming up on that table right now.
A man behind the curtain will make sure everybody hears you, trust me.
Thank you very much. Gubernatorial candidate, pleasure to have you here, Mr. Dean. Good to be in Republican territory, isn't it? Tennessee is the number 2 state, and number 2 in the state is industry and tourism, and that's part of our success. I just left Alcoa, where they had a gathering there at a Brown site, where they're going to build a new city hall and development area. I thought about you all when I was visiting with them, and I thought, you know, in some ways there's a similarity of what might happen here if you looked at that type of issue, and that is that what they're trying to do is build a city where no city existed. They were built there as part of the aluminum company, and they never built a city. They just built some residential areas and built a plant, and that was it. And, you know, after the fires and everything, and we think about the little satellite cities that we've had out here, the Pittman Centers and Jones Cove and et cetera, Kodak, you know, it might provide an opportunity for the same sort of little developments, much smaller in nature, to develop as satellites around the major cities that are here, Gatlinburg and Sevierville and Pigeon Forge. That's the way our communities used to be. We had little grocery stores and little town church meetings or meeting in a little community center, that sort of thing. And we've lost all that, and we've lost our sense of community as a result of that. So I think that would be an opportunity for us to talk about in the future, and I think something that would be good for Sevier County, particularly with development as fast as it's occurring. So that's some early thoughts, and I'll turn it over to Dale to tell us all about it, buddy.
Well, thank you. Of course, you know, I like to use puns. Somebody said that Carl Dean was here. I said, well, where's Dolly, you know? But anyway, no, pleasure having you with you today, Mr. Dean. And I was just on the phone with Speaker Harwell. She called a few minutes ago. She's out in Wisconsin with the speakers out there. And I said, we have a special guest today, Carl Dean. She said that she'd worked really well with you, the 8 years you were there. So, you know, we'll have to work with whoever's elected as governor, and we will work with them. And I reiterate what Art has said there. There's a lot of communities around here that have been and pushed away, and we don't have as much going on in that community. And I can remember when our little store down in Sevierville, and I forgot the name of it, right? The Western Auto. You remember the Western Auto where they had the little group bicycles and everything like that? Well, when Kmart come in, the poor fellow, he just had to go out of business, you know. So if we could get some more local things like that to come around and help businesses do that, and have the smaller things that are they're more in tune to the people, and they will take a customer service to more heights than some of these other big boxes do. That's what I like. I still like to go around, and if I can, I buy local. I buy my gas from a local guy. I try to buy as much stuff as I can locally. That way I can go in and talk and have a good time with them, because everybody knows that I like to talk. So, Farmer?
Well, thank you, Representative Carr. I appreciate that. I had, every time I go somewhere, I always tell them when Dale's coming. I'm just like, well, how are we going to get Dale out of his shell today?
Yeah.
You know, I always wonder, and everybody looks at me like I'm crazy, because I guess they know he's always out of his shell, right? But it's funny, everybody's talking about, well, Senator Swan and Representative Carr is talking about some things, some memories. I was driving up here today, and I always look forward to coming up here. I've always had a special place in my heart for Gatlinburg, and I was thinking, well, why is that? And the reason being is my father worked up here at the post office for, I don't know, probably 25, 30 years. And some of my fondest and earliest memories of being in Gatlinburg was being in the back of the Gatlinburg post office, watching those guys sort mail. And I would stay there with my dad. He was a clerk at the time, and I would stay there until the mail driver would come in the evening, and they'd take those boxes and they'd send that truck, and that truck would go to Knoxville. Then we get to go home. But I was very, very young at that point in time. I think that Gatlinburg kind of was set in me then, even though I was born and raised below the tunnel, went to Sevier County High School. I don't admit that to too many people above the tunnel, but I did, and ended up coming up here and got involved in a couple businesses through my wife's family, and then had a restaurant. Didn't quite make it through the fires. Well, structurally and physically it did, but financially it didn't, so ended up having to close that down. So I can understand the struggles that business owners have with regard to workers. And that was one of the toughest and most trying things, was to try to find employees for that restaurant when we had it, from the management level all the way down. There was several facets to that problem. One was there was nowhere to live for those folks here. And number two was there was a major drug problem, and still is. So once we found the employees and got them here, half of them, especially some folks that were, well, it didn't really matter because the epidemic doesn't discriminate. some folks were on drugs and they'd show up or leave during mid shift or whatnot. So I can understand a lot of the issues that our entire county, our state, and really our country is dealing with. But from a personal standpoint, from Gatlinburg being home and Sevierville and Pigeon Forge, I can really understand how those things really affect us from a day-to-day level. But here to help, and I know we all are, Senator Swan, Representative Carr, and myself. Art's going to do a great job in the Senate. Looking forward to having him there, and he's brought a lot to us. I know it seemed like there wasn't a single budget request that Art put in for it didn't get funded with regards to Sevier County this last time, and I'll let him tell you all a little more about that. But anyways, I appreciate y'all having me here today, and if there's anything I'd never do for you, just let me know.
Thank you. I'd like to add one thing, if I may. And since the fire, a lot of the things have changed around Gatlinburg, and I mean the people's thinking have changed, even though they had business and all. And I'm relating this back to my Uncle Lemer's Cars Northside Cottages out here, and I'm talking to his grandkids that are still running that, and they sat down and we started talking, and they wanted to do something different. So I think, and everybody here knows what they're doing. They're keeping the little cabins on the creek up there, but then they're also going to be making a campground there. So they wanted to try something different, and I think that has even some of the things in Gatlinburg have changed a little bit, but it's been for the better. So, and I think things are coming back now, and I'm real proud to see that. And I just want to say that. Thank you. It's your turn.
I've already been one round, buddy. I think we're going to questions now, are we?
Yeah, we can do that. Tammy, you want to come up and help us with the microphone here? We can get some questions. All right, you guys have had at least 30 minutes to think about your questions here.
I do want to say, I usually don't go that long, but I think the spirit of Doug Overby was in here.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, so.
All right, it usually takes one to get us started. Who's got a question up there? It's like an auction over here. Come on.
Oh, boy, he said auction, didn't he?
Well, thank you all for your service and understanding the opportunities that you see as you look down the road. What challenges do you see facing the state that we need to be aware of?
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the biggest challenge is that we have an erratic income flow, and right now we're in an upturn and everything's lovely. When we get a downturn, we're going to really be hurting because we built a system, of course, to operate under these terms that we're in right now and a level of service we're in right now. I don't have an answer to that question, but that is where we are, and will be the biggest problem I think we face in the future as we see the unlevel economic terms nationwide, for that matter.
I would like to reiterate what Art said on that. As you know, coming into next year, we're going to have a new governor, new Speaker of the House, new leadership, about 30 new members in the House, and about four new senators. So I was talking to a group the other day, and I said, no matter who is in power or who is in those offices, when we come in, we cannot undo everything that's been done for the last 8 years or so to bring Tennessee where it's at. We're going to have to work slow and methodically, because we have a budget of $37.5 billion, and as Art says, right now things are going good. We got plenty of tax money, and I'm in real estate, and right now houses are going, especially the economy houses, that people can really afford, they're really going great, but you'll always see that downturn. And we don't want to bring Tennessee anywhere close to being not what we already are, the lowest per capita in debt, and we got the third best roads in the nation, and we just passed the gas tax, which is helping with those. And if you haven't noticed, around we're getting a few extra projects here in the county, so that's really helped us. And a few things are coming in, especially about the extension down at Veterans Boulevard. So all those things are going to help, and then that's the main thing: get the people in here and get them in and to where they're going, so that they can enjoy when they get here.
Yeah, and I think that we're sitting on right at almost $1 billion rainy day fund. And I agree with Representative Carr and Senator Swan. I think we have been very responsible, at least since we've been there and before, I guess since the Haslam era, I would say, of building up our our resources in trying to do the right things and be responsible with our money. We're a pay-as-you-go state. A lot of states pay more in interest on their roads than they do on the principal balance of the project itself. And I'm very, very proud to say that Tennessee is not one of those states that we're paying more interest on our roads than the actual principal balance. That's something to be very proud of. Moving forward, I think, of course, we've all heard it, the opioid epidemic is a very big deal because it's affecting everybody. It's affecting our workers and such. We're definitely going to have to do more and tackle that. I think the federal government's on the same page there, doing more. We put in, I think, about $30 million last year towards some treatment plans and such for those folks that addiction has struck. And then I think we just focus on if we can continue to have support for our tourism here in this area as well. And the state's support there, I think we'll continue on in an upward fashion like we have. So I think we just need to stay the course to answer that question. We have some good folks, some great leaders here in the state of Tennessee, and those folks care about everyone here and have, I think we're pretty much on the same page there. So I think we just stay the course and continue on the direction we're going, and I think we'll be okay.
Great. Logan, I believe you had a question.
Again, thank you guys for your service. We appreciate y'all being here for target practice. I wondered if you could maybe be a little more specific about road projects and talk to us about what's going on there. I mean, the success that I see that Pigeon Forge has had in the expansion of their economy is because they've been focused on one corridor. They've put in the infrastructure and roads in place that allow that economy to boom. I think that Surrey County as a whole, the access to Surrey County, we've got one corridor bringing people in, and I'd like to hear more about if there are plans for another corridor maybe coming in, and what projects are being done.
And I'll take that if I may. I sit on the Transportation Committee, and if it pleases the next Speaker of the House, I'll probably be back on the Transportation Committee. We have looked, and I have talked to TDOT more times than I have fingers and toes, exactly what you're talking about. And if we can increase the number of traffic and widen when we get off up here at 435 and come in through that area and widen that all the way out, and as we have sat and talked about widening that whole thing out through there, that's one of the projects that we're working on to do that, and where they can come off if they're coming from coming from east going toward west, or from north coming toward south of 81, they can come down and hit this corridor up here at 435 in Blount, or Cocke County, and come on in and come back through 321. And that's the main thing we're going to focus on first, because everybody said, well, let's do another exit 409 or something like that. Well, the new law states, and the federal law states, that if we, or Tennessee, or Transportation says we're going to build a new 409, and we make it available and put it in our writing and put it toward our budget, we have to have that completed in 5 years. Now, to get that kind of money from the federal government in 5 years, I don't know that's going to happen. That's already in the works. It's already in the plan. But we can't say that we're going to do it yet, because we don't know we're going to get that money in 5 years for federal government. We're working toward that end. But so on the alternative route or route, however you want to say that, that's what I've been trying to work on, especially for Gatlinburg, is from 435. And when sitting and talking with you and some of the others, that expansion from 321 all the way out through Cosby and through that road, because they've got that grade as you first come off of 435 and come down through Cosby. They've already expanded that. We just got to go from there and on down past the apple orchard and come on in. That's what we are looking at as an alternative route.
What about 441? What's going on over there?
And which area you mean from?
Bushes.
Bushes?
Yes.
Okay. They practically got that completed from interstate and coming down to Bushes. Bushes is about complete, and that next leg is working on it now. They're in their phase state, in the not planning phase, but they're in the pre-construction phase where they go out and start talking to the contractors and everything like that. And I hope to see that done within the next 18 to 24 months. I really do.
What are we going to do with the section from 416 out to Sims Road? Is that going to be expanded to 4 lanes?
The 416 out to Sims Road, they don't have any plans right now in that particular structure to expand that to 4 lanes, but that's definitely an option right there, because number one, the right-of-way is already bought. All we've got to do is, I would settle if they would come along and put turn lanes all the way down through there to begin with, if that's what they want to do. And that's a very, very easy fix and not a hard fix. And that would maybe help with slowing traffic down. You go past Chambers Market up there, and you get in a line up there, and you got to turn left. Well, it just backs all the way up. You know what I'm talking about. So, and I could say, I always know TDOT's thinking, well, we're going to put in this turn lane first to try to alleviate some of the backlog. So we'll think about that. But I mean, the right-of-way's there, and I'll push it as hard as I can push it for a 4-lane from there all the way in, because if you've ever been downtown Sevierville or come out early in the morning like I do at 4:16, I come out that light every morning. I mean, if you don't turn right, and if you didn't have a red light there, you'd never be able to turn left, because they're backed up from there, plumb back up to that other light there at the market.
And if I may, I spoke with TDOT on this as well, because I live out that area. That road, the infrastructure of that road was built to hold currently. It could be widened to hold a 4-lane with a turn lane, so 2 lanes on each direction with a turn lane, the current infrastructure of the road itself. So it can actually be widened. The bed was built that way. That was the intention of it when it was built. Mm-hmm. So, and you know, if you drive out there out that way on a Friday or on a Sunday, you're going to see hundreds of campers heading that direction. So there's a lot of tourists that come in and out that way. So that would actually help a lot, get some folks in and out.
Not just tourism and also local traffic. I mean, is it very congested? As well,
It's like a parking lot in the afternoon, especially
like
a Friday afternoon. You can't really get anywhere.
And the very thing that farmer said there, you just need to go count the number of mobile, I mean, you know, campers that go out that way every Sunday afternoon to go home back up to either to hit the interstate or take the back roads back into North Carolina. It's amazing. Go ahead. Go ahead, we'll talk.
Give him this microphone. We should have gave you a lavalier mic.
Well, you know that when I've talked to people with TDOT, they've always talked about traffic counts, and specifically 321 doesn't merit expanding it. And of course, my argument always back is it could relieve other corridors. And if it was a good, corridor to come through, more people would use it. And so, I mean, they always try to use the traffic count as a reason not to do something. And my feeling is obviously this area is so, I mean, it's an economic, engine. And if we are able to bring more avenues for people to get in here, it's only going to help the economic growth.
I told them in transportation, you evidently take those traffic counts on January the 2nd, when it's raining and snowing up here. But because I have got the on my help on Region 1, Steve Borden and Amanda Snowden, I have driven them up here on a Friday afternoon. They said, man, I said, now don't tell me there's no count on these roads. I mean, come on, it's a bottleneck here. Well, we have to take it all year long. I said, well, we don't worry about all year long. We worry about the hard times when we've got to get them moving out right now, And so they're beginning to see that. I've got to get the message relayed from Region 1 down now to whoever's the new TDOT commissioner, and I'll be sitting on his door again, so we sure will.
We've got a couple of more questions over here. Jeff, we'll get to you next.
Thank you. Ryan Desir. Question about the BEP funding for the Sevier County school system, which I know you guys are fighting to get fixed for us, but what are the realistic chances that that's actually going to happen?
You want to take it?
I'll take it if you want me to.
Go ahead.
I think other people have to come to the table first before we get enough leverage to get it done. It's going to take the activities of other counties and cities besides just Sevier County. And we had a chat about this at the dinner table here just a little while ago about the inequities of the system and the fallacies that were built into it to begin with. It's a political situation, and we have to hope that the shifting of events over the last few years has put the numbers more in our favor than they have been in the past. But you can bet your bottom dollar that the three of us are going to be pushing hard. It not only affects Sevier County, it affects Blount too, that's in the district I represent. And we certainly, in both cases, pay a lot more than we get back. And we need to do something about that. And we tried to in the past, but we just have not had the leverage to get it done.
And I will say this, and looking at a governor's candidate over there, a lot of it's going to have to come and start with the head man on that. They're going to have, or whoever it is, because as Art says, that if I get something, then that 94th county down there wants something too. But we have been very fortunate here, and I will thank the present administration, and I'm talking also the present administration with Speaker Beth Harwell. We had, I don't know how many meetings with Speaker Harwell, the Budget Committee, the governor's staff, and we have been able to, from the governor, to get a little extra money put in the budget, $3.8 million at one time, to make up for some of the deficit. And then, we lost all these students because that when the fire came, they had to leave and go even into adjoining counties. Now, our budget committee, he's sitting there, Charles Sargent said, well, we're paying for them somewhere where they're going to school from somewhere, but we lost all that money at once. Now, we got an extra $3 million put in, and I was happy. And then somewhere in the supplemental budget process, which we like to talk on that sometimes too, and sometimes we need to make that budget till the end instead of the first. But anyway, it got cut to about $1.5 million. But now, Dr. Parton was great to get that extra $1.5 million. As for right now, for a buffer, as we used to call it, safety nets for our TennCare and everything like that, if we can talk to the current administrations coming in and still continue to get a little supplement money for us, because we are an anomaly up here, and if Mr. Dean there has not heard the anomaly up here. We're only a county of 90,000 people, but at any one time we have to have fire, police, and EMT protection for over 300,000 people per night. So when they look at that, we get less taxes money back for the schools and everything, but yet we have to take a lot of our local taxes and pay it all on that. Of course, we know how that formula was figured when they done that. It just took our number of money that we sent down there, divided it by our population, and said, oh, you're rich, but we're not. So, but we will work on that, definitely, for education.
You covered it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You covered it.
Good.
Jeff?
I just had a quick comment. I know that the county transportation representatives the planners for the different cities met with TDOT recently in a workshop. Mm-hmm. One of the discussions that came out of that workshop was our traffic counts are not accurate here. Period.
That's right.
TDOT has agreed to work with us to massage those numbers to where they're accurate, even allowing us to do some of our own counts. So I wanted to share that with you all, make sure that you knew that from a TDOT perspective, they have awoken, I guess, to what the issues are here. We need your help in ensuring that continues, I guess.
I'm glad to hear that, because I didn't know that they had met with you, but I'm so glad that they have come to realize that the traffic counts that they get are not accurate.
We had a regional workshop, but then after the regional workshop, our folks from Gatlinburg, Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, and the county met with them again. And these were folks both from Nashville and from Region 1. And explain the process. So that there is something in the works, we hope, that's going to allow our counts to be more accurate, which obviously affects funding and projects and potential projects like Logan's talking about with 441 and 321. So we just hope that continues. We look to you for support in pushing those buttons as you have, and we hope that you continue to. Thank you.
Well, and as you know, at certain points of time of the season, there, as you say, there's more traffic on Dolly Parton Parkway than there is on 66. Mm-hmm. Now, people don't believe that when you just tell them, oh, no, that ain't what I can prove it to you from counts that we have taken, maybe not TDOT, but now, and we know that for a fact, as Logan was talking a minute ago, to relieve that traffic and to relieve some stress and everything. Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience today? David, what you got for us?
So the question is about employment, and that we obviously have quite an employment shortage in Sevier County and the number of jobs that we have, but people can obviously live here because it's at capacity to live actually here. So what are some of the things or thoughts you would have in helping fill the 3,000 jobs that are available here that we can't fill?
Farmer can touch on this in a minute, but I will say, of course, last week, last month, THDA, Tennessee Housing Development, did send some tax credit money up here, and they're building 88 units out here in Gatlinburg now. They broke ground on those at the covered bridge. David Hayes is doing that, and we got some more in the county, which is about 353, or was it 500? I forget. Anyway,
400 total.
400 total apartments or housing that they're going to put in. But to get back to your question about I was just in Louisiana at ALEC conference, American Legislative Exchange Conference. And what surprised me was, and I'm talking about our not unemployment, I'm talking about our employee issue up here, and they're having it in other entertainment places too. Branson, Missouri, and some places in Louisiana and everything like that. It's just, and I don't mean this in a bad or a negative way, but it comes back to what Farmer said. It's the opioid. It's all these drugs. They come and say, we got people here, but we can't work them. So we have got two problems here. We got to get them clean enough to work, and then put them to work. One guy told me down there they would interview 12 people before they found 2 that they could employ after they took their drug test. So it's a problem that's all over the nation, not just here, and it's because of this, but we do have a problem here. Housing is one of it, and to get these people to come back in here, and affordable housing, that's what it is. Farmer,
I think Senator Swan.
Go ahead. You want to say something on that?
I think you pretty well covered it.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I want to say one thing about that. What I want to try to do, and I'm going to encourage Senator Swan and Representative Carter to do the same thing. I want to try to apply for some sewer line extension grants and some water line grants, because I think if we could bolster our infrastructure of sewer and water, it'd be more economical to build on those lines. So I think if those things may have been in place already, we may have been able to build a little more, but it's so hard to find land that has those utilities available, and the price is so high because it's so scarce that it's kind of hard for us to get that the right price point to build and construct things to allow somebody to come in and pay a monthly rent of, like, say, $600 or $700 a month, because that's what a family of 4 can afford when they're working the seasonal jobs and the type of jobs that are here. They can't afford to pay $800 and $1,000 a month. That's just not feasible for them. So our price point per month for a family of 4 that are both mother and father's working and the kids are in school to support themselves, we need to try to provide housing to them at between, I think $600 and $700 a month. So.
All right, we're going to take, go ahead, Dale.
May I touch on that? Of course, and here again, I sit on the local committee too. And of course, when they above my objections, when they took away the city's right to go out and just annex, and it has to all be, referendum now or agreeable annexation, when they done that, they took away the little power, because the only place that ever expanded these water lines and sewer lines were cities. Okay, so I'm going to come back to Jeff now at the county plan down here. That's where we need to see a lot of those grants come to now, is the county, that they can do, even if we make in cooperation with the Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, and Sevierville, to tap onto their sewer system sometime, but the county's going to have to bring that to the forefront, and also the water lines too, and we can have some more development. I mean, it's there, it's in law, it's fine. We just have to work with it, but it's going to be up to the county, and as Farmer said, we would love to get some more county water grants for Roger Sims to get some water out there, and also we're still finding a lot of places, especially in Sevier County, that won't perk, so therefore you can't put any septic on it, so we're going to have to get some partnership agreements with some of our cities for the sewer on that until we can do some more building and stuff. Thank you.
We're going to take one more question from Sid up here, and then I'm sure all 4 of our panelists and guests today will be around if you'd like to speak to them. But Sid, what you got for us?
Gentlemen, I'm going to piggyback off the last question over here, and as employers, every employer in this room, we're probably 10% underemployed. We've got positions available. Dale, I think you started to open the can of worms there, maybe not, but what about the unemployment system and the unemployment rate? I know we've got to get our people cleaned up from the opioid crisis, but has there been any consideration for maybe some reform of the unemployment program? I mean,
I'm glad you said that, and I'll be the first to agree that our government ops committee called, sort of, as we say around in East Tennessee, called on the carpet labor and workforce not long ago. And the way that, for the longest time, anybody that was on unemployment, even though they were out looking for a job, they'd call in and try to get some unemployment, and they never could get through. And of course, that helps too, because if you got an employee that you have to lay off during the wintertime, and they can get their unemployment and don't have to seek other employment, that they can come back to you, of course that helps. But we're working on that. Our unemployment rate is low, but with more talk and more cooperation, and I hope we can have it this next session, is the fact that the labor and workforce development down there, whoever that is, we can put out some more stuff to come up here and help us to find more jobs and create more jobs, and have some grants to help these smaller businesses and some businesses to subsidize some of this money to help them get a lot of these people back to work.
I come from the housing industry. I was in the building supply business, and I think a lot of our problem comes from the housing issue that we addressed just a few minutes ago. 400 units is not going to get us to the finish line, and it's going to take a lot more. But they're going to have some place to live if they're going to come here and work here. And we're going to have to deal with that crisis along just like we do roads and everything else. But if we build it, they will come, and I think you're on a good thought process over there.
Great. Thank you. How about a big hand for our panelists here?
Thank you.
All right. I tell you what, while I've got everybody's attention, just a couple of quick announcements here. First of all, this building that you're all sitting here, the Gatlinburg Convention Center, don't underestimate the power of this building. It might have a little age on it, but this building you're sitting in actually has an economic impact to our city of about 100, what is it, Dave? What's that? $110 million impact to the city of Gatlinburg, this building we're sitting in. So, and none of that would have happened without the general manager of the building manager who's walking around the back there, Debbie Osborne. Say hello, Debbie. So Debbie's done a great job in this building for 30 years here. Also, we have another great asset here in Gatlinburg, and that is Rocky Top Sports Complex. And today, we are pleased to have Lori is here with us. Lori McMahon Moore. So thank you from Rocky Top. Another great project here in Gatlinburg that's driving economic impact to us. And speaking of that, we're trying to do something different here in Gatlinburg. If we keep doing the same thing, we're going to get the same results. So you may have seen when you come in today, hopefully you've heard us talk about the scarecrows and snowmen. We're getting in the scarecrow business. And this fall, if you saw some of the scarecrows that were out there, we'll have about 60 of those placed around town. This fall. They range anywhere from 5 foot to about 15 foot tall. Some local businesses have also purchased some. And then we actually are looking to expand fall. So over the next year or two, you're going to try and, we've always been in a hurry. Winterfest was great. It did what it was supposed to do. But now I think us, Pigeon Forge and Sevierville and the county, we're looking to evolve Winterfest. And particularly here in Gatlinburg, we seem to be in a rush to get out of one of our busiest seasons, fall. So yes, we're still having a chili cook-off. It's going to be more like a fall chili cook-off, though. So, and that leads me to some of the partnerships that we're really starting to develop, not only between Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge and Sevierville and the county, but we're working closer and closer together than ever before. And I'll tell you, the scarecrow idea came from conversations with Dollywood. They had a smash hit with their Pumpkin Illuminary event last October, and we said, hey, how can we reinforce what they're doing and the investment that Dollywood is making into Sevier County? What can we as Gatlinburg do to support that that's just going to attract more and more visitors to the county and here in Gatlinburg? So that's really what developed the scarecrow idea. And then we'll turn that into snowmen after Thanksgiving. You'll see us turn into snowmen through the end of February here in Gatlinburg. So, and we're going to encourage, not only will you see some of those three-dimensional scarecrows, but we've got about 300 of the traditional scarecrows that'll be on light poles and everything else here. So, and we're going to encourage other businesses and residents to get involved. Cool. And then the last thing I'll say is communications. Even though as a chamber, We do send out a marketing Monday, we send out a chamber Wednesday, but we know that that's probably not enough. So look for us to work with the city and internally amongst ourselves. We really want to get the great things that are happening here in Gatlinburg, here in the community, in the county, and statewide. You heard from all of these folks about all the great things that are happening within the state, so we're probably going to look for ways to communicate that not only to the business community but also to the residents here in the next few months. So we're listening to you, and we're trying to improve, and we're working with the city for that as well. But if you have any ideas, our staff's always welcome. We're up for new challenges, so please approach us for it. And with that being said, we appreciate you all for being here, and I think we have some gifts for our panelists, don't we, Tammy? Great.